a special and very moving irony for me to be sitting here in the theater space that is named after Mr. Hotchner, who is a good and dear friend both to the university and to the Performing Arts Department, in talking about his friend, Tennessee Williams, and his work at Washington University. It's remarkable how all of these things sort of tie together in interesting ways. A.E. Hotchner, wonderful philanthropist, writer, biographer of Ernest Hemingway, was a classmate of Tom Williams. And they were both in Professor W.G.B. Carson's now notorious English 16 class, which was a class on the one-act play. And the three winners of the contest each received a cash prize, and Tennessee Williams, as we know, finished in 4th place with an honorable mention. One of the people who taught public speaking in our department, Valerie Safran, mentioned to me in the first week I was on campus in 1987, in the fall, that did I know that Tennessee Williams was a student here and that he had written a play and nobody had ever seen it. And so I went to Olin Library then, the first year I was on campus, and I picked up a copy of Me Vasha. It was a very strange play, but in any event, I knew at some time I wanted to go back to Me Vasha and really explore it. In 2004, Washington University celebrated our sesquicentennial year, and I thought it was a good time to perhaps reconnect the relationship between Tennessee Williams, although he didn't graduate from Washington University, but with the university. So we did a production right in this space, and I realized that when I staged Me Vasha along with Shelley Orr, that Me Vasha was actually a better play than Tennessee Williams' contemporaries had thought. I think they laughed at it. They thought it was ridiculous that this student would write a play about an armaments manufacturer, which is who Vasha is, who keeps his crazy wife locked in her bedroom. And then she comes out, a pistol has been smuggled into her, and she shoots Vasha dead. He's begging for his life. The way we staged it here, we had Vasha on a huge desk about 10 feet in the air. So when the audience came in, they saw this enormous figure looming over him. Actually, it was played by a very small actor, but it had the kind of Wizard of Oz effect. And so immediately the audience realized they were not in a realistic space with the desk, and there was a globe that he was twirling according to Tennessee's stage directions. And it created a much more fantastical environment for this play to work. And then, of course, we did the Glass Menagerie here, and we had a conference, an international conference, with some of the best and most interesting Tennessee Williams scholars in the world, Chris Bigsby and Gilbert Deboucher, who spoke and gave the keynote addresses then. So I went to New Orleans afterward, and tinkering around, looking around in a used bookstore, the Faulkner Bookshop, it's where Faulkner wrote Soldier's Pay, his first novel. I asked the proprietor, because I noticed a number of Williams signed pieces of memorabilia and books, if he had anything that wasn't on display.
Please join me in welcoming Henry Schvey.
I came across the actual Blue Book in which Williams wrote his failing Greek examination. At the back of the booklet, I found something I think more extraordinary, a poem scribbled in pencil entitled Sad Song. The word sad had been clearly erased, and blue was written in its place. This examination book is now, thanks to our Olin Library, housed in special collections. And Blue Song is, I think, worth quoting for its remarkable depiction of Williams' mental state just before he left Washington University. I am tired. I am tired of speech and of action. If you should meet me upon the street, do not question me, for I can tell you only my name. and the name of the town I was born in, but that is enough. It does not matter whether tomorrow arrives anymore. If there is only this night, and after it is morning, it will not matter now. I am tired. I am tired of speech and of action. In the heart of me you will find a tiny handful of dust. Take it and blow it out upon the wind. Let the wind have it, and it will find its way home. Blue Song describes perfectly Williams' state in the spring of 1937. Miserable, rootless, utterly alone. The poem was eventually published in The New Yorker in 2007, and as recently as the day before yesterday, I was contacted by a composer who was setting it to music. So the poem, I guess, also has a kind of reverberative effect. It shocked me that anyone had known it, much less had decided to write a musical composition. Finishing at Iowa, he went to New Orleans, and that's where he his life changed. And of course, that's where he turned out play after play after play. Williams was an obsessional writer. He was also a confessional writer. And so the material, whether we're talking about the early stages of his career or the later stages of his career, is all about his family. It's all about those family relationships. It's not that nothing changed, but that for every writer, that period of adolescence is the most vital period of their lives, especially for an autobiographical writer like Williams. And so my thesis is that St. Louis never left him because his family never left him. He experienced a different trajectory, going to New Orleans, becoming a celebrated writer, and of course, Glass Menagerie was written in the 40s. It was premiered in Chicago in 44, went to Broadway, and was a huge success. And of course, after that, Williams' life changed. And then it changed again in 1947 when he wrote and produced Streetcar, which won the Drama Critics Circle Award and the Pulitzer Prize. And so he was now a huge, huge writer. But at Washington University, he never thought that those things would happen, of course. When Williams wrote his memoirs, it was in 1975, and his last appearance here at Washington University was in 77 at Graham Chapel for an Assembly Series talk. Williams wrote his memoirs, I think quite frankly, to earn money. And it's very interesting. I really was thinking about this in the last days about this issue, because it's probably true that the least accurate, the least truthful thing he writes about himself are in his memoirs. In his fiction, he writes the truth. In his memoirs, he writes fiction. For example, in the memoirs, Washington University is never even mentioned, not once. If you look in the index, in his memoirs, Washington University is entirely expurgated. This is not an accident. This was a year that he did not want to acknowledge, he did not want to accept, and it was written out. That's why we called our conference in 2004, Tennessee Williams, the Lost Year, because it represented the year at Washington University. But being a lost year is not the same thing as being a forgotten year. I think, if you like, if we're talking about a chronology, Williams chose to misplace that year in the chronology of his life. He never forgot about it. He never forgot what St. Louis meant to him, which was a place of restriction, of puritanical morality, and the thing that he needed to escape from in order to free himself both sexually, emotionally, and most of all artistically. And those things, of course, he found in New Orleans. But for any writer, the bars of the prison are just as important as the free space outside. Henrik Ibsen needed to leave Oslo, Christiania, in order to write. James Joyce needed to fly by the nets of Dublin in order to write about the Irish, if you like, or write what he had to say. Tennessee Williams absolutely needed St. Louis. They were the bars on the prison. St. Louis was the obstruction that he had to fly from. But if you think about it psychologically, it was all the more important. Williams lived far longer in St. Louis than he ever did in New Orleans. And yet we associate, in some senses rightly, New Orleans with the place of his work, the birthplace of Williams' work. But in fact, St. Louis was the birthplace of Williams' work. New Orleans was the place where he was able to acknowledge it and to become the artist, the free artist that he needed to be.
Perhaps I am walking along a street at night in some strange city before I found companions, and I passed the lighted window of a shop where perfume is sold. The window is filled with pieces of colored glass, tiny transparent bottles in delicate colors, like bits of a shattered rainbow.